I've seen so many people get hired by the airlines and they look at their second year pay and they buy a house according to that and they're broke, living on credit cards. They don't understand that you really don't want to do that.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome to another awesome episode of Ready for Pushback. I'm Nick Fialka, and I'm super stoked that you are joining me today. And this is for all of you entrepreneurs out there. It seems like every pilot has a side hustle, and I'm always interested in what people do for side hustles. There are lots of different things, but there are very few people that do a side hustle on such a massive scale that it becomes a huge source of income and just a massive machine. And that's what we have today with my buddy Marty Medve. Marty has created a massive mortgage company, and I want you to listen to it all. It's such a good episode. If you are a pilot, if you are thinking about buying a home in the next couple years or something close to buying a home might be on your horizon, you owe it to yourself to listen to this, because here's why. Marty's a pilot. He's a military person. He's a veteran. He's all of those things. And he has this awesome mortgage company that helps pilots get the mortgages that they deserve at unbelievably low rates. So check it out, listen to it. Lots to unpack here. I hope you enjoy it. And last but not least, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast. Hey, pilot, did you just get a new conditional job offer? Are you getting out of the military and going to move your family across the country? Are you going to move in base somewhere, or are you going to go out to find that second home that you've been looking for? Well, I want you to stop right now, pick up the phone, and call Marty and the team at Trident Home Loans. It's an organization that's run by pilots. They understand pilot pay. They understand contracts. They understand military. They have the best VA loans in the United States. Marty and his team have been doing mortgages for years. They've been doing my mortgages for years. I trust him and his team more than any other organization. I challenge you to get a better deal anywhere else. Go ahead, reach out, get a mortgage quote, and then call Marty and his team. They will walk you through the process and show you how competitive their rates are. So go right now, tridenthomeloans.com, and check them out. Hey, pilot, I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give him a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell him I told you to call. All right, here we are. I am with my good friend, Marty Medve. I've known Marty for a really long time. He's a Navy pilot. He's a Naval Academy math major. He's a small business owner, and he's a major airline pilot. And so all of these things together create this really cool concoction of a leader in his industry. And I am so thankful I was finally able to track him down and get him on this show. So Marty, how are you, man? Welcome.
I'm doing great. I'm having my best month ever as a business owner personally. It's all thanks to people like you. Nick's a three-time borrower, he's a three-time winner, as I would say, and also a fellow pilot, same airline, and friend. And so I'm glad to come join you.
Dude, that's so awesome. First off, you had a career in the military. Talk to me about how long you were in the military and then how you transitioned to the airlines.
So enlisted in 1980. And so I'm an old guy, and then got a commission at the academy and went to fly off of carriers for 3 years. My mothership there in San Diego is my home for back when I was a carrier pilot. And then came out of that and VT7 instructor. And that's my current business owner, is my best friend and roommate from VT7. Tim Moore, he was a Tomcat pilot. I was a Prowler pilot. So we're different communities, different places. But in general, stayed good friends. And he helped me get hired by ValueJet. And very difficult transition, 3 crashes, and lost my best friend in the crash at ValueJet back when they lost. And he went to Southwest via his company, and I went to Delta after a year of being unemployed. So it wasn't all rosy in our transition. It was actually rather difficult. But now both of us are 26-year captains. We're both business owners, and we remained really close friends through a lot of transitions. And I got my start back in '02 from 2 other fellow Academy grads that were realtors here locally in Pensacola. And then in '07, I transitioned the company with just Tim alone, and that's when we started Trident. So about 15 years with Tim, and great friend, great connection. And your best friends and your best business sources, sometimes your former squadron mates and former teammates and people like that.
Let's talk about that, right? So your company is Trident Home Loans. How did you go from just a former Navy guy who's flying for the airlines to deciding that you want to have a side hustle, right? I know, like, your business, the reason I love what you do is because your side hustle is now a massive organization. It's not a hustle, right? It's a massive company.
Yeah, I always laugh. We actually donate more to charity than I make as a Delta captain. Where $144,000 a year goes, because it's near and dear to you. But this month we sponsor the Blue Angel Foundation. We sponsor National Helicopter Association, National Guard, Chiefs in San Diego. And I've been to more events in the last month than I can count. But that's a love of service. That's a love of giving back. And the business probably sponsors more. Large companies don't do what we do with military aviation and those groups. But I think going back, everything I've done in business, I've done personally. Like, I've bought and built houses, remodeled houses, probably 10 to 12. I'm currently building and developing land and remodeling a condo. So that's how I got my start, was through real estate, not through doing loans. And my fellow pilots from the airline here in Pensacola are like, how are you living in this house on the beach as a co-pilot at your airline? And a lot of it was buying, selling, building, and then doing it again, and then doing it again, and then starting all over in '07 because of the crash of the real estate market, and then learning that lesson I learned a hard lesson in '07 and start over. And it took about 3 years to dig out, but I had faith that I did well. But the real key is, having done everything personally, I've done it all. I've built, remodeled. I haven't done, actually, I've bought commercial and remodeled commercial too. So, and then in concert with doing loans, it has helped me meet other people's needs. And also being an airline pilot that's lost his job, got his job back, gone through a divorce, and now dealing with disability, I've pretty much done it all.
One of the things that probably I don't do a good job on this podcast is talk a lot about the potential rocky road ahead for a lot of people. And we never know what this industry is going to do. And right now we live in this kind of Oz type area of a lot of retirements, a lot of new aircraft purchases, a large growth plans for these airlines, but it's hire until you furlough. And I think, did you have a similar feeling when you started entering aviation? Did you think, like, hey, as far as like airlines, like, hey, this is going to be totally awesome? Like, because it seems like you had to recover a couple times with furloughs.
I never got furloughed, but when you're flying for ValueJet and life's great, you're getting hours, and all of a sudden, you go to Atlanta and you're using the Delta Airlines manual to get your check ride, and that kind of falls apart. And then they have 5 crashes, and you're like, okay, you're literally flying one day and the next day you're out of a job. You're going, well, how did that happen? It's just like being the highest paid captain in the world, and then the next day I have a detached ret and I'm done. Now, I might get back. I'm hopeful that I will, but I'm not too concerned about it. We have a good disability program, but not many people think that can happen to you. But I've always had a second career, and the airline job, I could do it with that, being an international pilot in particular. So I've actually mentored and fostered a lot of other pilots to do second careers, whether it be a lawyer, or real estate agent, or a mortgage broker, or interview prep. It's really good to have another career. And I like toys, and so I afford those toys through my airline career. My business is actually my primary source of revenue, and as it is for my 100 employees as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. 100 employees. And you employ a lot of pilots. You employ a lot of veterans, a huge number. And you're very fortunate because you're located in Pensacola, Florida, which has a huge population of both things. Have you found that to be advantageous to how you run your business? Like, why is that helpful?
We don't allow our loan officers to achieve a large commission on a loan. We have an ethic of doing volume for making money as opposed to trying to make as much as you can off each individual. So I don't really get a lot of off-the-shelf loan officers. Once they find out they can't make more than what I can do a loan for, then they don't come. But airline pilots that have a second career, they're happy for it. And so when you have a second job, now not all of them are, I have 2 of the top 5 loan officers for VA in the country right now. So some of them actually do quite well, but they're doing volume, and the company is built for volume. When you can do volume with word of mouth, and nobody can beat you. It's a great situation where every pilot that I've done a loan for, there's probably 5,000 at the airline I work for now that are referring loans to me. When those referrals come through as a direct referral, my primary goal is to ensure that person thanks the person that referred them with a great rate, great service, and professionalism and experience. Right now, like I said, I've never had the last 2 days, I've talked to 20 pilots in 2 days for mortgages. It's unheard of in this market.
Right now, we're recording in October of 2023, and it seems like the mortgage industry is falling apart. It seems like people are not buying many houses. It seems like the rates are just, everybody's used to 2%, and now it's not.
So think about that. Think about what you said. Imagine that's the problem. Everybody's at 3%, so they don't want to sell. So inventory is low. That's why the market's not crashing. But think about what you just said. If you were a buyer right now or a seller, would you want to sell or buy? No. There's so much negativity. So let me give you some real life examples. On Friday, interest rates were being quoted over 8% if you were just a lamb to the slaughter on the regular mortgage market. I locked a pilot at the training center at 7.25% with no lender fee on a conventional loan. You can't get near that. And that's no origination, no lender fee, 7.25. So not only was he excited about buying the house and the rate, well, why was I number 1 in the country for VA loans 2 years in a row? Right now, probably number 1 for purchases, if I would imagine, or close to it. It's because I offer lower margins and I do a lot of refinances for my clients. Nick, I'm going to give you a refinance. I'm going to pay the closing costs so that you sit in that seat for 20 years and refer my business.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I do. And so I have an army of people at every airline right now saying, call Marty. Well, the first phone call is, how'd you hear about me? And the second phone call is, here's the rate quote. And then the competitor's like, well, he can't do that. And they're like, well, okay. So I have the luxury of having direct referrals, a high volume, and a loyal, dedicated army of pilots over 22 years that are sending me referrals. And I treat them right.
That's how I met you, my buddy Josh Martin. He gave me your phone number years ago and said, this guy's another Navy pilot. This guy's an airline guy. He's done my loans. He'll take care of you. I trust him with everything. And that.
Oh, yeah. Now you said something that I really appreciate. It's the word trust.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to do a loan for somebody that doesn't trust you? It's a nightmare. If I don't have your trust, if you don't know from the 1,000 posts on the forum or if you Google my name and you don't see trust and you can't understand that we're a better company on my 800 5-star reviews on Google, trust is the most important thing. And you know what? I reward trust.
Yeah. So my experience has been like, you've made it easy because I know your employees off the top of my head, and like everybody I've worked with, I appreciate them and I consider them friends because it's
personal. It's personal.
You know what I hate is buying a car. My whole family are car dealers. I hate buying a car. I don't even want to go into a car dealership. I'm resisting buying a car. And I feel like buying a house can be the same thing, except exponentially more threat. And
oh, yeah. Let's talk about that for pilots.
Yeah.
Right? So you're an airline pilot. You make so much money 1 month. You get 100 hours. You get these slips and yellow slips. Or you're on reserve 1 month. Your pay goes up and down like crazy. You come off of training. You upgrade. We understand pilot pay. We speak pilot, and we know what you make. Most new hire pilots or pilots that are 5 years look at their pay stub and go, I have no idea what that is. I'll call a chief piloted commuter who will go back from his car down in the parking lot and give me a letter to help me explain what a pilot makes at Compass. And those guys are 1099. It's amazing. Some guys in training are 1099. We understand more about pilots in the United States than any other company. And because we do hundreds and hundreds of loans for them, and we understand the contracts, we understand the underwriters. And so we're successful 100% of the time. And the main thing for us too is military transition is really hard.
Really hard.
Not for us. Now, for me, what I'm finding a lot is, hey, somebody said to call you, we're kind of having trouble. And the first thing I'll tell them is you don't qualify for a loan. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but you're under contract for $1.2 million house in Salt Lake City. You don't qualify, Colonel. You have a retirement date in 6 months and you do not have a class date from anybody. You don't qualify. Get out of the contract. That happened last week. Yesterday, one of the largest internet lenders pre-qualified somebody and they said, well, reservist making $2,500 a month, you qualify for a loan. They're out shopping in Orlando and they live in Kansas. There's no way. It's like, wait a minute, you don't have a class date with Spirit? You don't qualify. You can't buy. There's no way. The VA will not qualify you. So I challenged her and she was awesome. She called the VA at my request. She talked to the lender and they said, well, that was one of our assistants. And no, actually, he's right. I'm like, look, I've been doing this for 22 years for pilots. And most of what I do is I protect them. It's not all about making money on a loan. It's trying to counsel and say, yeah, you can buy a $2 million house, but do you really want to? If you're going to move in 6 months, then why are you paying points to buy down the rate? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Pilots are a very fluid group. So a lot of what I used to do for 6 hours flying across the pond is I used to counsel and say, well, your whole goal should be to buy lowest payment, do no cost refinances as much as you can, and then go to a 15-year fixed and pay it off before you retire. And I would educate and teach the math and counsel.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I ran into this when I was transitioning, right? Because I was in the military. Actually, I was at the airline and then I took orders to the military and then I got out of that military active duty portion back to the airlines and had to jump through all these hoops about proving your income. And I'll tell you,
it's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare, but I really appreciate you've done it thousands of times. Your team gets it and sees it. And that's what makes it that much easier, because if you're going to go live in Fort Worth, there's 1,000 people in Fort Worth that want to sell you a mortgage, but they don't understand your situation. And
well, that's a big part of it, is just making it simple and not having the unknown of how much do I make? How much do I qualify for? Hey, we're first year pay guarantees with every airline right now. 2 months before you get hired with a class date, you're qualified for $8,000 a month at Delta, $6,500 a month at Spirit. We know the pilot pay calculations off the contract. So, but we do still require a class date. We still do require unconditional job offer. But one of the things that I do is, because there are direct referrals, and pilots are really, quite honestly, deserving of the best rates and service. They're professionals, just like doctors, is we provide extremely aggressive rate quotes on the first quote. And a lot of people will say, well, we have as good as rates as Trident. And the next thing I know, I'll see 5 or 6 people. I know you don't. And I'm proud of the fact that they compare, we're the person to beat,
Yeah.
But again, it's easy for me when I do the volume I do, and I reward my borrowers with great rates and service so that they will do what you have done, sir, which is help me grow my business.
Yeah, man. So you're in Pensacola. Do you only write loans in Pensacola for houses in Pensacola?
I'm a rare individual. I'm licensed in 47 states. And number 1 for VA, 2020, 2021. Number 4 last year. My Air Force other airline pilot was in the top 5 as well. So the only states we don't do is Hawaii, which we'll get soon. We don't do New York or Nevada. And that's about it.
Interesting. That is so interesting. Is it because they start with the letter N?
Well, it's because the New York's, they took 2 years to process their application and say you have to have 3 people as owners, and we're not going to do that. And it's an attorney state, so we just gave up. Nevada, they want someone to live there and work in an office 8 to 5, and we're not going to do that. And it's a very highly, and honestly, I feel bad because if someone's getting a rate quote in Nevada, I can't quote the rate, but we know that we affect the margin. I'm kind of a target for a lot of the CEOs that mention me by name. They say, we want to take this company down. And if you Google mortgages, you'll know who they are. They name me by name. They say, let's take him down. Beat him at all costs is what they say. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Because
Well, you are kind of like a superhero for pilots. Bear with me. Like the idea of somebody from another company like targeting you hard to put you out of business, like that's the villain, right? And you are here.
Yeah.
What I like is, you do a lot of volume. That's because you're not trying to pull one over on somebody. I mean, I've done 3 mortgages with you, I think.
Right.
And if I was buying another house tomorrow, it's an easy yes, because I'm just like, tell me where to sign, tell me what it is. I know that it's the best because I trust you. But I also have a lot of trust in the people that are in my life. So that's why I think you're definitely a special case with this organization.
Well, thanks, Nick.
Yeah, man.
My mother used to say, I ride the short bus. I'm special case. No, I'm kidding. But I appreciate that. But a lot of it is, other than mortgages, a lot of it is just mentoring. When you get a job as a new hire pilot, I was talking to a wife yesterday, and a lot of the new hire wives are the ones that run the shows. And they're like trying to figure out, well, if I buy this house and he upgrades for this, I said, so you're hoping that he bids for Orlando. Well, what if he gets New York and then he can't commute? And then what's it like to commute for 22 years? I love Pensacola. I can commute real easy. But I commute to international, so it's real easy. But I think the problem is...
And you're senior.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've seen so many people get hired by the airlines, and they look at their second-year pay, and they buy a house according to that, and they're broke, living on credit cards. They don't understand that you really don't want to do that. You don't want to go out and buy as much as you can your first year because you may not want to live in Atlanta. I hated Atlanta. I did. But I got lucky and built a house there and made money on it and finished the basement myself and took that $100,000 and bought a house a lot on the beach. And then from there, it's just been, and everything I've done in real estate's actually made really good money. It's crazy. But I just will tell people, look, do you really want to sit your butt in that seat for $100 a month to try to afford this house? So when I ended up getting divorced, because I was flying and working, doing loans and busting my ass and building a house, and sometimes less is better. But also just, I finance, to your point in your career, based on need. And right now, a lot of people like you, 3-time borrowers, are retired. I've done loans for their kids. I'm trying to help teach them how to get their kids' houses in college. And, so a lot of different things. But I even learn everything new every day. And just by I probably talk to more pilots every day than anybody else in the world. I probably talk to 40 or 50.
I'll bet you I talk to almost as many as you.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, right now, you're absolutely correct. Well, I think right now we're kind of joining forces.
That's right.
I don't know.
That's right.
But a lot of guys are looking for guidance, and they may start off at one airline and they may go to another one. And I always tell people, like, I was a mentor at my airline, and right now in Pensacola, we have one of our loan officers is lead up one of the other major airlines training in Pensacola. It's starting off at Air Warrior.
Oh, that's right, Sky Warrior.
So a lot of our airline pilots, or a lot of our LOs, are union reps. They're involved in their airlines, in management, in HR, at the union. And so if somebody wants to go to a certain airline, I say, well, call so-and-so. He's been at FedEx and he's done this, he's done that. But a lot of it is just, if you have kids, I wouldn't want to go to FedEx or UPS. I'd probably want to go to Delta and fly around the world with my kids. People don't consider that.
Sure.
If you want to buy houses and retire with 3 $2 million houses, well, maybe you do want to go to FedEx.
Well, a lot of that is lifestyle choice, I think. So here's me. I've got 5 kids. Everybody knows it. They're little. And we have a house, and I bought it within the past year and a half. So I don't have a great rate as far as it's not 2%. But I think about being the sole income earner in my family, trying to be successful at my airline, be a person that can be a solid captain and be relied upon, even though I'm junior in the airlines and I feel like there's a target on my back. And I think about what if. And so that's why we didn't buy a house where I can't, if something were to happen and I were not to have a job tomorrow, I could pivot and pick up another job that I could at least cover the mortgage and we could pay the utilities, right? And we could just kind of maintain. There's this weird feeling, especially when you're just starting at a major, there's this feeling of empowerment that I've made it, here I am, and I can go blast off and spend a ton of money. And I see it. And I see it. And I just want whoever's listening to think about that as far as that 1.2, 1.6, whatever it is, really try to be pragmatic and understand your budget and yourself, because Gosh, man.
Let's talk about now. Let's talk about what's going on right now.
Okay.
Right now, there's two types of lenders, those that are making money and those that are starving for money. And they are pushing the rates up through the roof that you can't imagine. And so, we're quoting out 7.25%, no lender fees for our group. And we're seeing 8.25% from other investors that are the same loan. And they're not making but maybe double what we make. But right now, there's really no money in rates. And so you have to really, really push the rates up to make money. So when you're a lower margin, right? When you do lower, I talk about margins, we margin on a loan or we make on a loan. I actually had 2 meetings today with 2 of the local real estate companies to actually train their listing agents on how to have the sellers subsidize our interest rates. So I'm going to start offering below 7% conventional loans, 6.5% or so. And one of the realtors, Keller Williams, she just closed a new hire in Pensacola. And she called me and she's sending me all of her listings so we can do flyers to offer 6.5%, 30-year conventional rates. So if you're listing and you own a house, you're at 3%, you don't want to sell it and lose equity. Well, that's the only way you can do it now is to subsidize a rate. And if you're buying a house, the sellers are willing to concede money because they're chasing equity. This is a correction right now. This is coming. This is a bubble and it's bursting all over. But it's not bursting that bad because a lot of people are just at 3% and they're holding fast. And that's why it's going to be a soft bubble. So today we're starting to see really good strategies with buy and refinance. You can't refinance the price, but we're offering no cost refinance as a solution to buying now and getting a better price. And that's why I was number 1 in the country is because of the loyalty to our clients to offer these no cost refinances.
So as people, we just ended the convention road for the year, right? Our tag just ended, and there's a lot of new conditional job offers out there for a lot of major airlines. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And everything's going to start slowing down in hiring right now until the beginning of the new year. Then it kind of ramps back up. But all these people are going to be starting their careers. They got their job offers. They're going to be starting their careers over the next 4 or 5 months. In your crystal ball, where you can see all, because I know every time I talk to you, you have great outlooks. What's happening next year? How is this? Is it going to continue to rise? Are we going to totally fall? I don't know. What do you think?
No, when you get 40 or 50, like in the last 2 days, 20 clients in 20 markets. I know the markets, especially where I'm at. And we're seeing sellers, we're seeing zero conventional buyers. So we're seeing prices and sellers with no buyers except for our buyers. So the sellers are conceding price and they're conceding concessions. So right now, availability is going to start to go up and go up and go up. And then all of a sudden there's going to be price drops. So the first thing anybody looking to do to buy a house should look at time on the market and price drops. I have a lot of key realtors. We have preferred realtors on my website that'll do all that for free. Just email them and say, hey, what's the market trends look like? And right now, if you put in an offer, the sellers are scared, because they know the high rates are going to bring in fewer buyers. So how do you combat that? Well, we're going to listing agents now instead of buying agents and saying, hey, we'll give you really preferential rates and we'll help you sell your houses because you need the lower rate, you need the buy down. But I'm going to see the next 2 to 3 months prices tumble and seller concessions. And then when rates, and then they're going to reverse course with the Fed and rates and the bonds. And all of a sudden we're going to see rates drop and the music's going to stop immediately, probably in about 4 to 6 months.
Interesting.
So timing the market's always is dangerous, but right now we're at the very beginning of, and we're seeing rates actually tumble this week. We saw them tumble probably 0.5 point. So it can go away as fast as it comes, but right now we're seeing concessions because it's the winter. August, the sellers weren't giving anything. They were really being stingy. And now it's everyone's kind of getting nervous if you're a seller. There's no buyers. They're not making offers because they're not going to go under contract at 8%.
Yeah.
So my buyers were like, I asked them, what have you heard for rates? They're like, 8%. I'm like, I'm going to come to the schoolhouse in 2 months. I'm going to give you 7.25. But he was, no, it's just that I have the money and it's my decision on what I charge. And when I get high volume, I can offer really aggressive rates. And that has generated a feeding frenzy right now through all the forums. And I think that's what's causing it. It's just that we're very aggressive.
What has your experience been for, like, let's say a veteran and they want to buy a house and have you had these houses appraise low because of the way the VA does home appraisals?
Not yet. No, not yet. We really haven't had what's called tidewater appraisal issues. And to me, the VA buyer is the most powerful buyer in the country because, and especially for pilots, if they're putting money down, the house doesn't have to appraise. So we kind of plan on that with the sellers. Now they can go back in and renegotiate the price if it doesn't appraise, but most of them are getting concessions now. Appraisals seem to be okay because of past market history. It isn't going to be until 2 or 3 months that you see some price cuts affect appraised values. Right now, we have the summer appraisals that are pushing values up, so we're not having appraised values at all. So I'm going to talk about VA buyers really quick.
Yeah.
I learned about 15 years ago from one of my loan officers, Stacy Haynes, that VA rates pay twice as much as conventional loans. So what do you think I did as a veteran? Do you think I made twice as much off of you, Nick? What did I do? When I found out my competitors were making twice as much.
Yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing and do twice as many, right?
Yeah, I didn't charge you twice as much,
No,
did
you
I?
did not.
I charged you half as much and then some. So we have a huge gap between our VA rates and even now our conventional rates because what people are doing. And we're using that as an ethical advantage to giving veterans better rates. And it's just because VA is a guaranteed loan. The 7.25% VA rate, right now my VAs are at 6.875 with no lender fees. Conventional 7.25. It's not that, maybe 7.375 to make a little extra money. You know, I like to make money too. But we're basically seeing a VA loan still under 7% comfortably. And a lot of people will call and they're in the military and they've had a VA loan and they think they can only have one. And actually you can have three. It's entitlement use. It's not the number of loans.
That's right. I mean, I've used mine multiple times. Can those buyers buy down the rate at all? Or is it better to put more money down? How do you figure that part?
So we can offer them a buy down, and usually our buy downs are like a 1/4 point to get an 1/8 lower or a 1/2 point to get a 1/4 lower. A lot of people, ship captain in Gulfport had one of his junior enlisted and the division officer had him call me and we quoted him a rate and his wife got on the phone and said, how about buying points? I said, ma'am, you're going to have that VA loan 1 year because we're going to do what's called a VA IRRRL. And I did thousands of them. And that's why I was number one in the country because I did in 2020 and 2021, I did thousands and thousands of no cost or low cost VA IRRRLs. So I educate all of our borrowers on please don't pay points and fees because this loan's not going to last a year. You have a 23-year high in interest rates. Do you really think that's going to keep going up and up and up the next year? No, the forecast is for rates to tumble. And then as long as it drops a 1/2 point, you can get a no-cost refinance, and then you can do it again every 8 months. And they don't even know. I mean, that's the thing. Once people find out about the VA IRRRLs or the conventional loans, you can refinance conventional too. The VA is cheaper. But why would you want to have someone pay points when you know ethically that that loan's not going to last a year?
And what does IRRRL stand for?
It's a special program. It's VA Interest Rate Reduction Refinance Loan. And you don't need appraisals. You don't need to underwrite it. There's no income assets. It's a streamline. So we look at that as a benefit for our clients to go out and sit in that seat and say, I just got a no-cost refinance from Marty, and you're flying to London, and all 3 pilots hear about it. We're like, I get 3 phone calls. I actually got 9 phone calls from Milan one time because there were 3 crews at the bar talking about a 2.25 no-cost VA IRRRL, and I was like, all 9 of you? That's all 3 ER crews? I loved it. I was like, it was fun.
Here's what I love is for the pilot that's listening, when I called Marty last week, I think, to chat about coming on the podcast, and I said, well, I can't do it this weekend because he wanted me to come down to Pensacola and sit down in person. And I said, man, I got to fly out to Madrid. And he said, oh, Madrid, let me give you a list of 4 places to go. Here's where you're going to drink beer. Here's where you're going to have dinner, like all the things. And I did it all. I sent him pictures. It was super fun, but that's just kind of an example of the friendship version of, yes, you're doing business, but really we're just trying to make sure everybody's got what they need, right?
And it's important because pilots are really unique. The way we work, the way we live, commuting, history. I actually flew to the largest wholesaler in the country, bigger than Quicken. I actually flew up there in person because they had a FedEx pilot that said, well, he doesn't work in Alaska because
What?
his base is in Tennessee. I'm like, So I actually flew up there and met with their manager, and he's actually the owner of an NBA team, and 3 of his head underwriters. And we put a stop to them not allowing a pilot who commutes to work to live off of his base. And now we have special underwriting teams just for our pilots at these investors. And Matt Ishba from United Wholesale is a great friend, and I can talk to his head underwriter in a text. And I had a UPS pilot that had a crash pad with 7 people staying in beds in the garage. And they're like, oh, he's committing fraud. I'm like, no, he's not. He's got 5 kids in New York. But I like being involved personally. And whether it's somebody who is in Iraq or who's in a gunship in a foreign country, I'll take a referral call from anybody. But my employees know that every pilot, that every person I speak to is valuable because they can broadcast to a forum of 15 to 25,000 military members that we screwed them or we gave them a really good deal. And we win on all those forums because we do take care of people individually.
Yeah, there's nobody more fickle than a pilot. So you screw one of them, it's over.
Oh, yeah.
It's over.
Well, yeah, I always love hey, I could pay cash. Why do I have to do all this stuff? I'm like, well, did you get an aircraft and not do a checklist? You know what I mean? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of my friends that were from VT7, you fly, you make 300 to 500,000 a year. You're like, I could just pay cash. I'm like, well, why would you do that? Just do what everybody else is supposed to do. You're not special. We have rules. This is just a rule. And I have a lot of ways to make things easier. We'll actually go to a lot of I don't mind calling a chief pilot at Atlas and get stuff from him. They're great. By the way, Atlas got a great chief pilot. I've killed the chief pilot at Compass. Sometimes we'll go to the head of HR at a different airline to get what we need because the pilot's having trouble. He's flying or he can't get it. But the nice thing for us is we'll document income or tell them what they need on 4 different levels. And I actually am doing that right now with an upgrade captain at United. We're going to get 4 different types of income to show them, well, you can make this over a 2-year average. You can make this over a 21-month average. We can do this over a 12-month average, or we can use your captain pay, but we have to get documentation for all those things. So we're going to actually do all 4 types of income and provide. He doesn't need captain's pay, or he's been there 6 years. He's fine. So, but we want to just demonstrate to that pilot group that we can use any amount of income you want from those 4 different types. And each one is more. Captain upgrade at $280 an hour was different than his 2-year average, which is most people will try to use.
Yeah, that's so important. And so if you don't know that, if you are not in aviation, you're not going to get that from the local mortgage person. The local mortgage person might have like a general idea if they live in a hub for a major carrier. Maybe they've done a couple, but it's so streamlined. It's so easy. And you just feel safe knowing like, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is how we provide all our documentation. This is where I sign. This is where we go. This is where we close, all the things. I mean, even when I did mine with you during COVID, right? We handled stuff beautifully. It was amazing. And it was in the middle of the worst part of COVID. So thanks for that, man. You guys, it doesn't have to be you. It's everybody that works with you.
No, that's not me. That's the staff.
Yeah.
And there's a large major lender in Pensacola, and we've actually gotten some really, really good talented people out of there. We pay them a lot better, and they're very dedicated. A lot of them are former military or military kids. But I think right now we are going to go into a period where a lot of new hires are getting jobs, and we know through track history that house is probably going to last a year to 2 years. Because when they get the pay rate and they want to move somewhere, they find out, well, you know what? I really don't want to live in Atlanta, or I really don't want to live in New York and commute from Orlando. I'm a guard pilot too, and this and that. So we know that plans will change. And so we really try our best to finance to need. And then also, if someone's interested in starting a business, a lot of my LOs too, we help them with if they want to get a second career, if they find a business that'll support you part-time, and then they can develop that over time. And some guys actually go that route from the very beginning. They leave the flying jobs. The NFOs do this, and then they build a second career. And then, so a lot of it too is just trying to develop a second source of income and help them not just be solely reliant on sitting in that seat. Like you with 5 kids, how would you want to fly? Do you want to fly overtime and never see your kids and make a lot of money? Or would you rather spend time with your kids? That's more important, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm already on reserve every weekend for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. And as far as being a father and a husband, that's so important to me. And I sleep better at night knowing that even if it all comes tumbling down, I can find a way to support my family.
You ever thought about remodeling or investing in build? Like some of the money I made, like I bought a house for my mom. What's going on right now is a lot of baby boomers are retiring, getting old, so their kids are putting them into these houses. So I did that for my mom and dad. I built a house in Atlanta and remodeled it. I built a house in Pensacola Beach and sold it, remodeled it, upgraded it, developing wetlands right now and land. I remodeled a condo. But I've made money in everything I've done in real estate by improving the property, and on average, $100,000 per property. So let's talk about that. If you drive down the street and you see all these old houses that are dated, that's not what people want to buy.
Right.
So if you go in there and you put some sweat equity into it, you buy it, get it priced right now, you get it where it's kind of run down. We do a VA renovation loan, which most people don't even know exists. And so if you want to use your VA loan, buy something that needs $100,000 worth of upgrades, we can finance that in. The rates are only a quarter point higher. But everything I've done, from my father who passed away, I bought a house, remodeled it. That house was a spec house for $170,000. I sold it for $380,000. And the realtor's like, "You'll never get that." I'm like, "You don't know who you're talking to." I mean, look, I sold it in a day to an Air Force pilot that wanted his dad to live in it because it was built for convalescents. And the same thing happened in Gulf Breeze, another house. They're like, "You're never going to get $300,000 out of a 1,000 square foot house." Well, a guy from Pensacola Beach bought it for his dad because it was a convalescent home and it was beautiful. So I would encourage everyone, if you don't want to be a realtor, a mortgage broker, or a lawyer, or financial industries are really good, you can do that. I have a lot of people that are in the financial industry, that financial advisors. Dave Petroshevsky, he's really good.
Timothy P. Pope, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's P+7 or something crazy, and he has like 5 kids too.
Yeah.
But financial planners are good. But anything you do as a supplemental career, and mine's really full time, and right now it's, but I think as a pilot, you have the time, and I think most guys squander their resource as a very intelligent individual. When you go into a career as a pilot in any other field, you're way better than anybody else in that field because you're a smart guy. So I think pilots, they get hired, they start off, they think they're bulletproof, they think they're going to make a lot of money. They are, but if you have a second career, maybe you're not going to sit in that seat 100 hours a month and only be home maybe 8 to 10 days a month. And it's a balance in life that a lot of people have. And I built my company around me flying all the time, enjoying life, sit over in Milan with a beer and take phone calls. And people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm eating olives, drinking a Peroni, and I'm talking to Nick."
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's just it, man. And, I wish I was smart enough for finance, but I have a face for podcasts. So that's my side hustle has been so fruitful for me, I think, because it's just an opportunity for me to give to the pilot group because I've taken so much over the past 20 years of people just lifting me up. And I feel like we identify like that. So I just want to say, as we're kind of wrapping up, I appreciate what you do and your honesty with it. And so how do people find you? How do we get in touch with you if we are an aviator looking to buy a home? And how far out should we look? Like, should I call you 2 weeks before I'm closing, or what do I need to do?
No, really with pilots, it's best 6 months out because of upgrades and training and planning. And the sooner we can kind of counsel you on what you can afford and when you can actually buy. And the best thing about the pilot wife in Kansas was she called me 6 months out. And until they get a class date, until they get through they have to do something special for Spirit, where they have to get I think Possum said what it was, but he has to do this. It's like an ATP type thing. He won't get a class date at Spirit. So I asked him to reach out to her to help her get that qualification so he can get hired sooner. But a lot of it is just timing. And I don't mind if people call me a year out so they can plan. Our worst nightmare is, "Hey, I just bought $1 million house and I'm going to get out of the Air Force in 6 months. I'm on terminal leave and I don't have a job offer yet, but I will get one." I'm like, it's a nightmare for me because so we like to plan so we can tell them how to qualify and what they qualify for. And then it takes away all the mystery and agony and fear of buying,
So find the mortgage before you open your Zillow app. Find your mortgage first.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to find out what and when you qualify for. But I'm easily found. I mean, Trident Home Loans or me personally, my name will pop up on a web search. Marty Medve will pop up as an owner of the company, or we can provide it on a link here, however you want.
Yep. I'll have all of your information in the show notes. The person listening can just click on the podcast details and it'll have all of the Trident Home Loans information. And when you do call him, tell him you heard me chatting with him. I think that's awesome. I love that. And I know Marty will get a kick out of it. Hey, man, this has been so informative. I respect you as much as anybody could, and I really appreciate you spending your time with me. I know it's super valuable, so thanks. And you're awesome, man. Let's have you back real soon.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. And we'll find another topic that people want to talk about that can help them. And I think you said something that I greatly value is that Trident doesn't really market. We sponsor military events. We sponsor events for pilots. Of course, we were at RTAG with you. That's here in Boston. He's one of my airline pilot LOs, but that's what we do in Pensacola. We're doing the Blue Angel end of season. We're doing NHA as well. And I just came back from San Diego sponsoring the Chiefs orientation out there and National Guard 2 months ago. So I greatly appreciate the ability to take and actually share our wealth to give back. I think that's near and dear to my heart as well and our purpose. But thank you so much. And I do look forward to another event and appreciate you having me on.
Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. And you can find us over at SpitfireElite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to SpitfireElite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code PODCAST and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.